I want to talk today about the subject of mastery and how being an expert can both help us and get in our way at times. There's an author named Dan Pink who wrote a great book many years ago called Drive. And in that book, he talks about what generally motivates people. A lot of times we think about compensation as a main motivator for most people, especially in the workplace. And while it is a motivator and can be for some, really it's only motivating until you're able to take it off the table. The things that really, truly drive us are mastery, autonomy, and a sense of purpose. For this conversation, I want to focus on mastery. And really what I mean by mastery is being able to master something. The research on this is amazing. There has been so many studies done on people who spend ridiculous amounts of time on unpaid activities just so they can master something. I think a lot about learning how to play the guitar as an example, something I'd like to do someday, and I think a lot of people aspire to do as well. And it's not like I'm going to turn this into a business or something that's going to be profitable for me, but really, outside of the enjoyment of the music, there's also just that component of being able to master something, to learn how to do something and be able to say, I can proficiently do this. And often in our careers, we go into somewhat specialized fields, and the goal is for us to become masters of our trade. And again, very motivating for many of us. How do I keep learning? How do I keep growing? How do I keep getting better in this skill set? The challenge is when we arrive at this expert level, it's easy for us to stand still and to stagnate, to rest on our laurels as an expert because it feels so good, right? When someone asks you a question and you know the answer to the question, when you become the go-to person, the subject matter expert, the one people go to who knows the things, it feels good. We're in our comfort zone. We know it's expected of us. And we know what we need to do. But it can be dangerous to stay in that mode. Dangerous for a few reasons. Sometimes subject matter experts can become a bit rigid and they can lose their openness to thinking differently about something. They've worked so hard and taken so much time to be right that they are no longer willing to be open to the thought that maybe they're not right, or maybe there are some things they can still learn, or maybe things have changed. It's also dangerous to stay in expert levels for too long because when we stay in that expert level status, are we really growing? Are we learning? Are we leveling up? I remember many months ago, my son was doing push-ups, and he's really into physical fitness and does lots of push-ups, like more than 100 a day. And so for someone like me who can't even really fully do one real push-up, I'm very impressed by this. But he was doing push-ups and his form wasn't great. Again, easy for me to criticize as the non-expert, but his form wasn't great. And upon receiving feedback about it, he became pretty upset. He is also a perfectionist. But he said, well, are you telling me all of the push-ups I've been doing up until this point were trash? They're just worthless push-ups, a total waste? Wrong thing to say to the learning lady. I said, listen, you've been doing push-ups for a while now, and it's time to take it to the next level. Everything you've been doing up until this point has prepared you for what's next. You've mastered the beginner level. Think about being at a 9, which is the highest level you can get to in the single digits. But recognize that moving from a 9 to a 10 takes you to the bottom of the next level because 0 is the bottom of the 10s. And he looked at me about as confused as you might be listening to this right now. But I'll give you an example. Anyone who plays video games knows what leveling up is. It's described as when maybe a character experiences some sort of progression that will unlock new abilities or skills. You're better equipped, but the new level is also a bit harder and brings new challenges. I will now both disclose my age and video game skills by sharing that the last video game I consistently played was Super Mario Brothers. Yes, I'm talking about the OG version on Nintendo when it first came out. And my favorite part of playing Super Mario Brothers was the very brief moment when I successfully passed level 1 and right before level 2 started. It was a few glorious seconds for me to revel in sweet, sweet victory of sliding down the flagpole, seeing my coins add up before the dread set in because I knew I could never complete level 2, which was a little bit harder. And now you've probably figured out why that's the most recent video game I've played. I choose to focus on my strengths. Now, it was great to pass level 1, but most of us didn't just turn the game off after that. We tried to move forward with the game, but it did get increasingly harder. And I want to encourage you to think about leveling up, which is what we all try to do when we're playing that game or other games. Thinking about leveling up, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, and thinking about where are those areas where perhaps you do need to level up. Because again, super, super dangerous to stay in that expert category because you risk not growing and learning more and developing yourself to achieve your fullest potential. So, opportunities for some personal reflection here. I want you to think about what goals you have and what you want to accomplish in the near future. And then what areas or skills do you have that you would say you're an expert at? And what skills would you say you're more of a beginner at? And how much time are you spending in your comfort zone versus out of your comfort zone? Yeah, think about that for a minute. How much time are you spending in your comfort zone versus out of your comfort zone? Because growth happens when we are out of our comfort zone. So what are those things you can do to challenge yourself to get out of your comfort zone, to build up different skills than what you have right now to help you achieve your goals and ultimately reach your fullest potential? While it feels good to be an expert, don't forget the importance of leveling up and thinking about the fact that yes, it may feel like you're starting over, but you're really not. Mastery is a wonderful feeling. Standing at the top of the mountain you just climbed, rescuing the princess, finishing a project, all of those evoke euphoria. But when you stand on top of the mountain, you don't stay on top of the mountain. Eventually, you have to come back down and figure out what's next. And I'm not a mountain climber, but I would assume they probably figure out what mountain they want to climb next. And it's probably a more challenging mountain at that, or a different type of a mountain. Mastery feels so much better than beginning. Standing on top of that mountain feels so much better than standing at the bottom of it. But let's just reframe it a bit. What if you're not standing on top of one mountain and then you just have to walk back down and start over? What if you're standing on top of one mountain and it's really just the base of the next higher mountain? That's what leveling up is, and that's what growth is. When you're standing at the base of that new mountain, look back for a moment, revel in how far you've climbed, take all the learnings you can from that first mountain, and then use them as you start your next climb. Always be looking for opportunities to challenge yourself, to go out of your comfort zone, to learn something new, to get to that next level. Keep climbing, keep going, and keep growing